How to lift your team's performance this month without pushing harder. At the start of the new month, there's this familiar feeling that creeps in. You open the calendar, you look at the roster. You think about the participants you're responsible for. You think about the standards you're trying to hold, and you feel that little tightening in your chest because you want things to run better, more consistent, less messy, fewer little fires, fewer "how did that happen" moments. But you also know your team's already carrying a lot. So the real question becomes the one most leaders don't say out loud. How do I lift performance without breaking people? And if you've ever had that thought while making a coffee at stupid o'clock, you're not alone. Here's what we need to get clear on straight away. Performance doesn't lift because we push harder. Performance lifts when we change the conditions people are working inside. That's it. That's the whole game. No pressure, no intensity. Not another speech about standards, conditions. Because in disability care, the work is already heavy. It's already emotional. It's already high stakes. If we add more pressure on top, we don't get better performance. We just get more mistakes, more sick days, more resignations, and more awkward conversations we'd rather avoid. So this month, we're not going to push. We're going to set the team up to win. A new month comes with its own type of pressure. You see the gaps in the roster. You see the inconsistencies in the notes. You see the small quality issues that keep repeating. You see the same participant complaints that come up in different ways. And underneath all of that, you're holding something even heavier. The outcomes you've promised families, the trust you've built with referrers, the responsibility you carry as the leader. So when we talk about performance, it can feel loaded. For your team, it can sound like you're not doing enough. For you, it can feel like this is all on me again. But here's the reframe that changes everything. High performance in disability care isn't created by force. It's created by clarity, safety, and rhythm. And those three things are fully within your control as the leader. I want you to picture your team like they're rowing. If the water is calm, people can row smoothly. If the water is rough, even strong rowers struggle. And disability care is already rough water. Changing funding, complex needs, emotional situations, family dynamics, compliance requirements, unpredictable days. That's the current your team is working against every shift. So if the current is already strong, and then we add managerial pressure, more urgency, more "why isn't this done?" we're not improving performance. We're making the water rougher. This is where a lot of leaders get stuck. They see inconsistent performance and their brain goes straight to the person. What's wrong with them? Why can't they do it properly? Why do I have to keep reminding them? But most of the time, the issue isn't the person. It's the conditions. It's the way the work is set up. It's what's clear and what isn't. It's what's assumed instead of explained. It's what's expected but never actually said. So if your team's performance is inconsistent, we don't start by asking them to try harder. We start by asking this: is it easy for them to do good work here? Or are they guessing all day? Because guessing is exhausting. One of the biggest performance killers in disability care is uncertainty. When people aren't clear on what good looks like, they guess. And guessing creates variation. Variation creates inconsistency. And inconsistency creates stress for the participant, for the family, for the team, and for you. You can have a caring team, but if good is vague, you'll keep getting mixed outcomes. So instead of saying, I need notes to be better, we get specific. What does better mean? What does a good progress note include? What's the tone? What's the structure? What needs to be documented every time? What must never be missed? Same with handovers, same with shift expectations, same with incident reporting. Your job this month isn't to say do better. Your job is to make the standard visible. Because when people can see the target, they can hit it. When the target is blurry, they'll either freeze, rush, or wing it. And in this work, winging it costs trust. This is where a lot of leaders get frustrated because they think they've already told people. But telling once isn't the same as building a shared standard. Performance lifts when the standard is repeatable, simple and consistent, not when it's floating in your head. There's a type of tired that doesn't come from doing the job. It comes from holding uncertainty while doing the job. If a support worker is constantly thinking, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? Is this the right call? Will I get in trouble for this? What does the manager want here? Should I escalate this or handle it myself? That mental load is draining them before they even get to the hard parts of the shift. And you might not see it because people don't always say, I'm confused. They say things like, I'm just tired. It's been a big week. I'm a bit flat lately. I feel stressed. That's often not a motivation issue. It's a clarity issue. When clarity is high, mental noise drops. When mental noise drops, people have more capacity to actually support participants well. So part of lifting performance is removing the constant internal guessing game. That's done through clear decision points. What do you handle on shift? What gets escalated? What gets documented straight away? What gets followed up later? Who owns what? What's the first step? What's the second? When you build that logic into the day, you'll feel performance lift without anyone trying harder because you're freeing their brain up to do the work. Let's talk about the thing most leaders avoid because it sounds soft, but it's actually one of the most practical performance tools you've got. Psychological safety. Not everyone gets a trophy, not we ignore mistakes. Psychological safety means people feel seen enough to speak up early, to ask questions, to admit they're unsure, to flag a concern, to say, this doesn't feel right. Because silence is rarely a sign that everything is fine. Silence is often a sign people are holding back. They're worried they'll look silly. They're worried they'll be judged. They're worried they'll be blamed. They're worried it will become a big deal. So they keep quiet. Then the issue grows. Then it becomes a complaint or an incident or a family escalation. And suddenly everyone's scrambling. A team that feels safe to speak early is a team that corrects faster. That's performance. That's quality. That's risk reduction. So if you want to lift performance this month, don't just ask what's not working. Ask what are people not saying? And then create space where they can say it without being punished. That doesn't lower standards. It raises them because problems get caught while they're still small. Now we need to talk about urgency because this is where a lot of disability care businesses quietly fall apart. Urgency becomes culture without anyone deciding it. Everything feels urgent. Every message gets treated like an emergency. Every small issue becomes a priority. Every roster change becomes a drama. And your team starts living in a constant state of alert. That's not just tiring, it's not sustainable. When people are in alert mode all the time, they get reactive. They miss details. They communicate poorly. They lose patience. They stop thinking clearly. So if you want performance to lift, the business pace has to become steadier. Steady doesn't mean slow, steady means clear. It means the team knows the difference between a real crisis, a time-sensitive issue, an inconvenience that when you lead with that kind of prioritization, your team stops vibrating with anxiety. And when anxiety drops, performance goes up. Here's something I want you to get good at this month. Noticing friction is that annoying, repeating thing that makes you think, why is this still happening? The same documentation errors, the same handover gaps, the same role confusion, the same tension between staff. Friction isn't proof your team's hopeless, it's proof something in the system is unclear. So instead of reacting with frustration, we use friction like a map. We ask, what's unclear here? What's missing? What's assumed? What's not written down? What's not being trained properly? What's being done 3 different ways? When you treat friction like information, you become a leader who solves the real issue. And your team feels that. They feel supported, not blamed. They feel like the business is getting easier to work inside. And that's where performance lifts. This is something I want you to remember. When performance lifts in a healthy way, it usually feels quieter, not louder. It's fewer interruptions, less rework, less chasing, more confidence, more consistency. It's the absence of constant little problems. And you might not even notice it at first because you're so used to the noise. So if you're waiting for performance improvement to look dramatic, you'll miss it. Healthy performance improvement looks like steadiness. If you want to lift performance this week without pushing harder, do this. Pick 1 friction point your team hits every day. 1, a confusing form, a messy handover process, a documentation step that gets missed. Who do I call situation that causes panic? Then don't call a meeting about performance. Instead, fix the condition. Make 1 small change that makes it easier to do the right thing. And send a message like this. I've noticed this part of the day feels clunky. I've adjusted the sequence so it's simpler. Here's what we're doing from now on. If it makes your shift easier, tell me. If it doesn't, tell me that too. That message does 3 things. It shows you're paying attention. It shows you're designing support, not just demanding results. It shows your team you're in this with them. That's leadership. That's how performance lifts without burnout. If you're running a disability care business and you want straight talking support that actually fits the reality of care work, hit subscribe. We're not here to push people harder. We're here to build businesses that hold standards and still feel human. And if you want your team performing better this month, start here. Stop pushing. Start designing conditions where doing good work is the easiest option.